across the galaxy, where they talk all You're tuned into News Across the Galaxy, where they talk all things LA Galaxy with the Nag Boys. Let's start nagging.
What is up, fellow G's? This is Edgar from News Across the Galaxy. Welcome to the MidWeek show. I'm joined today by Chewy on the ones and twos. What's up, Chewy? Please welcome back, good friend of the show, the Honorable Matt Pollard of the Holding the Highline podcast and Burgundy Wave. Welcome back, Matt. What took
Yes.
so long, man?
Yeah, I blame the MLS schedule makers for making it so the Rapids and the Galaxy don't play each other until middle of July.
Yeah, we're like over the midweek. I mean, the middle of the season, and we just played FC Dallas.
Unbalanced and everything.
Yeah. We just played FC Dallas twice, I think, in the last 5 weeks. So yeah, in fact, we were talking to Jose, Tellez, who covers FCD, and we were like, "So, what has taken, what's transpired since the last time we spoke?" It was like, I don't know. It's been like a few weeks. It's the same. Everything's the same, except
Yeah.
we lost our coach. Oh yeah, that's a big deal. Um, well, like I said, welcome back, Matt. We love chatting with you. We're one of the good friends of the show. And a good friend of yours, who's one of your co-hosts, right?
Yeah.
Rabbi
Rabbi in
came
red.
to visit the dig for a match earlier this season. I think it was a match against Sporting KC.
Mm-hmm.
He had a great time. We hooked him up with some pupusas. He was hanging out with all the Galaxy fans in one of the tailgate areas. He got to have nice drinks. And tell me, did Rabbi have a good time?
Yes, Rabbi had a good time. I think that was
The,
obvious.
the drunk texting and all that good stuff.
A little bit.
We love Rabbi. He had a good time. Everybody was real nice to him, and so now you know that when you come down here, man, we're gonna roll out the red carpet for you just as well. We'll welcome you with open arms, and then we're gonna haze you and welcome you and call you one of us.
Okay, sounds good.
So, real quick before we dive into any rapid stuff, let's talk about the big topic of the day, and that is that MLS officially unveiled the long, rumored, but like worst secret to hide is the MLS archive collection. And the idea initially sounds great. You're like, oh, okay, MLS archive. So which legacy teams are going to be involved? Unfortunately, it was just LA Galaxy and Kansas City. But then you also had Portland Timbers, and you had LAFC and Inter Miami. Um, what was your first thought about all this when you first heard about it, and what did you think about how all the kids were dropped out today?
Yeah, well, Ed, first of all, I have to acknowledge I'm an MLS original truther. The only thing that I did not like about MLS 90s fashion was that everything was super baggy. As a 5'6" trail runner who's relatively skinny, and you know what, I'm probably 160 right now. I've had dinner already. Like, that baggy stuff doesn't really work. This is a small on me right now, and you can see it's super loose fitting and everything. So, Kansas City Wiz Drip, don't like it personally, obviously, but I respect it and I respect the colors. I think the Galaxy have one of the best original 96 looks and everything. I don't mind Miami getting a kit because I know that, it's going to make money. And if people see an Inter Miami Messi kit, regardless of what color, third kit, primary kit, secondary kit, it's going to get people interested in the league. We were bantering before we hit the record button on the show that it almost looked like you went to an AI generator and asked for like Dolphins colors of a Miami kit. So I would have liked to see something Miami Fusion. I get financially why LAFC got a kit, but at the same time, like they haven't even been around long enough to get a retro kick. It was like when the NHL a few years ago did the reverse retro jerseys, and like the Vegas Golden Knights had been around for 3 years. You don't get a reverse retro when the reverse retro
Yeah.
is the third ever jersey that you've had. I would have liked to have seen one of the other Cascadia teams get in, one of the clubs that either had a connection to MLS 96 or to the old NASL stuff as well. Obviously, like this version or an updated version of
Yeah.
the Rapids kit would have been absolutely fantastic. For us, we know the Rapids don't sell jerseys in the way that the Timbers, the LA teams, Inter Miami, other clubs are going to sell. So I get why that decision was made. Would have liked to see more teams be involved. If this is something that's going to be a regular occurrence, it would be nice to see other teams get their due as well. CF Montreal, there's some old school. They could bring back the old Chicago Fire badge as well. The Rapids, we could throw them in there as well. Bust out some of the old Dallas Burn if we're bringing back some of the old crest logos and everything. Village people for Columbus, but I don't mind it. 3 of the 4 hit for me personally, and once I knew what was going on with the Portland one, I respect it, even though it looked weird and kind of burgundy. But so yeah.
Yeah. Um, I would have loved a Caribou's throwback for Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know about the Caribou's of Colorado, but they had one of the most legendary, amazing
Who else has curtain tassels
kits,
on their kit? Yeah. So
right?
the Drew Moore, former Rapids legend, actually went and met up with one of the former players from the 1 year that the Caribous of Colorado existed. So presumably, if you're listening to this, you're a Galaxy fan and you have Apple TV. That is up on the Rapids section of Apple TV. So if you want some old school, deep history into the NASL existing in the state of Colorado, definitely check that out.
Yeah, and also while you're at it, you got to check out those kits that the Caribous had,
Mm-hmm.
because you've never seen anything like it. And like I said, I know that was it maybe last year, a couple years ago, for like April Fool's Day, the Rapids put out a tweet that they were going to bring back those kits, I think, or something like that.
Oh, that was
Is it?
like 10 years ago, but they've
Was it 10
recycled
years
it.
ago? My
Yeah,
God,
and
my
they
memory.
they
There
had
you
the
go.
tassels on them and everything. They had the super short shorts and the high socks and everything, and you could tell every single photo that they had of every single player who was involved in that. Like, there's not a single serious photo they took. Like, they were all, like the SNL skits that like go on for too long, and then like Pete Davidson like can't maintain character, and then the awkwardness goes on long enough that like it becomes
Yeah.
funny again. That's every single photo of like the guys being unable to be serious with this. Like, I don't know how much they Drew Moore must have gotten some bonus money for putting that on, but yeah, it's a hilarious joke. It never gets old. I love it.
Yeah, I really do believe that even though it was only 5 teams around this time, that MLS was kind of testing the waters, trying to see what kind of reaction there would be from these kits, trying to gauge how many kits are being sold. Obviously, all of them have been a pretty big hit with their respective markets. I know Galaxy fans were lining up way before 10 a.m. when the team store opened to get theirs. I know Kansas City fans, I've seen the reactions. Kansas City fans are really happy with what they got. Um, and I haven't seen too much of a reaction from the Miami fans, but they're going to sell regardless. LAFC fans are really happy with what they got because when you talk LAFC and you mention throwbacks, immediately people will say, "Hey, what about Chivas USA? Chivas USA?" Which it's funny, it would have made sense, but the fact that when you look at it from a neutral point of view, they're borrowing elements from the LA Aztecs. I know you had the Aztecs, really nice Aztec scarf there. They're borrowing elements from the Aztecs, although they don't really mention it. But they're also saying that they're paying tribute to some of the old LA teams that have been around for a long time, like Los Angeles Maccabi, for example. But yeah, you look at the lettering. Obviously, it is the Aztecs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there's we mentioned Portland, right? Portland, that was the Clive Charles tribute kit, which if you haven't heard about him, you got to read up on him. Very important part of American soccer culture, especially up in Cascadia. The contributions he made to the Rose City, to the team. Yeah, he was also part of the coaching staff of the U.S. men's national team throughout the '90s. Just a wonderful human being. Did a lot of great things for that area. So they named a kid after him, which, like you said, once you find out about it, you're like, oh, okay, it makes sense why the kid looks the way it does, and the history behind it. So, okay. Um, I think that you mentioned the other Cascadia teams. I think that the reason we didn't see one for Seattle or Vancouver is because they're both celebrating their 50th anniversary, and both of their kits that came out this season are actually celebrating that history.
Hmm.
The Both of them are kind of throwbacks. I know that the Seattle one has elements from all the different kits that they've used throughout their history. The one for Vancouver is has their old or their original logo from way back in 1974, and so they just did like a whole they use the old logo, but they give it like a modern spin. So they already kind of have their throwbacks. So respect to them, but if we're gonna go full MLS throwback, I would like you said, I want to see the old San Jose Clash. I want to see the original Metro Stars. When the old black and white. I want to see
Hmm.
the old Rapids kit. That if you look it up, it's you find very few photos of it. But that '96 one was really nice. I like that it was clean. I would have loved to have seen the Revolution bring back that kit from '97 one with the stars and the stripes, which looks really loud. I think it would have been fantastic for a modern audience. But who knows? Maybe we'll get that next season. I just think it'd be a lot of fun because Adidas is so rigid with the way that they have their templates. We're starting to see more creativity in the kits, especially this season. So hopefully next season we see teams that have more creativity and more freedom with third kits as well. Like I said, I would like to see that for other teams to also get that treatment. Do you agree, or do you think it's just a one-time thing?
I mean, we'll see how well they sell, but for like all this stuff that we see that MLS mostly focuses on the markets where they think they'll sell or have fashion stuff. So I mean, Atlanta hasn't been around long enough for them to get a third kit like this, but I could see them getting it. It'd be nice to see them spread the love. I mentioned Chicago, Columbus, Colorado, Montreal, other markets that I think would be more deserving based on their history in the league, but we know those markets don't sell things. Atlanta could announce a new third kit tomorrow, and by the end of this month they will sell more than the Rapids would have if they had a third kit for the entire season. That's just the reality of the economics behind it. I don't hate any of the new looks. Like, the key thing that I would look for, Ed, when they do this is that, do we see full MLS single entity of just all the kits looking like different versions of themselves, like the 25th anniversary, the COVID season, where everybody just had the Adidas stripes on the side,
Yeah,
and other than that it was mix and match your color combos. That single entity wasn't fun. Or you just see a bunch of kits that look like were farted out or didn't have anything unique to the city or paying attention to that. I think all three, if for I'm reacting to this as someone who's a neutral with respect to all of the kits and everything. I don't feel like there's a single fan base who has this kit drop for them that isn't excited about it, doesn't want to get it. It isn't going to get buzz and make things more interesting. So in that regard, I'll two thumbs up.
yeah. The only thing that before we wrap this up is the only thing I found funny was like I spoke to the guys from the Battered Herons, which is a Inter Miami uh, podcast group, and they mentioned how it was ironic that they would go with the Miami Dolphins, right, being an NFL team, when the owner of the Dolphins hates Inter Miami,
Hmm.
and they felt that it would have been more apropos for uh, Inter Miami to try and delve into the old Miami Fusion history, but I guess Inter Miami wants nothing to do with that, which I thought would have been fine. Or even then, they could have gone with the Fort Lauderdale Strikers, but missed opportunities. I guess like you said, it doesn't matter what how that kit looks. You put Messi on it, it's gonna sell. Period.
Yeah. Could
All
be a
right. Well,
trash bag with Messi 10 on the back of it, and they would still sell.
yeah. So moving on, you take a look at that Western Conference standings, and you see the Rapids are back. At least they're on their way back. It's been a great season for the Rapids. Can you tell us what's been going on? Because the last time I remember really getting a chance to talk to you, and this was, not us in the chat, but we were just chit chatting about all the issues that were going on with KSO, which is Stan Kroenke. A lot of people don't know
Mhm.
Stan Kroenke, who owns the Rams, also owns Colorado Rapids
Yep.
and Dick's Sporting Goods Park, and the issues that were going on there with ownership. The way that they were treating the supporters, the way that they let the stadium go into disrepair or um, Can you tell
It
us
needs to be
what
updated.
happened?
Is the
Tell us, because I know you. I was listening to your one of your spaces on Twitter, and you were talking about moldy dicks, right?
yeah.
It sounds bad, but can you give us an explanation for anybody who doesn't know about this? What's been going on with the Rapids, and how this is important to us? Because at least I really care about all the other teams in this league. I care about especially the legacy teams, and I want to see everybody get a fair shake in this league.
hmm
Uh, so let us know what's going on.
Yeah. So last year, I think, was rock bottom for the club in the modern era. So I'll say, post 2010 winning MLS Cup, post, moving out of Mile High Stadium. Most of that, or at least the discussions and the frustration with that, started on the field with, I would say, arguably one of the worst seasons in Rapids history, bottom of the Western Conference, almost won the wooden spoon. Narrowly lucked out on that with Toronto FC, and just a malaise of where the team was at. This was in the aftermath of the facilities being called out as outdated. There was reporting by other outlets, not myself originally, that the players had filed complaints through the MLSPA and were asking for help from the league because they didn't feel safe on some of the practice facilities that they had, and some of the field conditions they had. Winter was really bad last year. It was relatively easier this year, so that contributed to it. But Ed, it would have been end of the 2022 season. Who was it? Yaya Toure, the homegrown, not to be confused with the Manchester City star midfielder, tore his ACL on a soccer field for Dick's Sporting Goods Park that had just been replaced this year. So Dick's opens in 2007. It's been the same grass pitch until the start of last season. So there was a homegrown 17-year-old
Wow.
kid who tore his ACL at the end of 2022 on a field that was installed when he was in diapers. That new field comes in place,
Wow.
and in the home opener for it, Jack Price subs on, captain, coming off of an injury in preseason and everything. 7 minutes later, he tears his Achilles on that same field. So there were frustrations from the playing staff. There were frustrations from the fans. And so the frustration on the field then led to a greater, almost like, audit of the fan base, trying to understand where are we with respect to the league and with respect to the rest of the KSC entourage. Okay, we understand the Rams are an NFL team with a multi-billion-dollar stadium. Arsenal, the Rapids transfer budget is a rounding error compared to what Mikel Arteta gets every single summer for Arsenal. But even you look at every single other team that KSC has had, if we're including the Nuggets and the Avalanche, like, they've had success recently. They've had accountability at the front office level, and when there's an opportunity for the team to spend more to become more competitive, they've been able to achieve that. Did that with the Avalanche, did that with the Nuggets. Nikola Jokic is eating fine. And so that then led to the game against New England Revolution of a boycott in which the fan base chose to walk out. Everybody wore black. The majority, all of 117, left. And at the end was a TIFO that was left in the stands at 117, C38 section, that said, the fans, the players, the badge deserves better. And so it was the equivalent to what Arsenal had a few years ago with KSC of "we care, do you?" And so that was a request for accountability on the technical level with what had just been maligned, and I think people getting comfortable with living off of what happened in 2021 for the club. That was an acknowledgement the stadium was in disrepair. C38 also issued an open letter. The Forbes comes out, and these other financial institutions or media outlets come out with a ranking of the valuation for all of these clubs and everything. And the Rapids are usually at, if not near, the bottom of that list in the history of Forbes doing that. I imagine the Galaxy and LAFC and Inter Miami and Seattle are at or near the top. Those could be top four for all I know. And regularly, you would also see that the valuation for that, albeit Forbes doesn't have all the information necessarily, would put the Rapids valuation. The Rapids were often the only or one of only 2 or 3 MLS teams that were valued less than what the most recent expansion fee was. And so this letter that C38 put out said that the Rapids are valued at less than MLS teams that only exist on paper. Right now, if San Diego FC ownership wanted to sell the club off of the expansion fee, being at Snapdragon Stadium, and having Chucky Lozano, that that would be a more expensive price than if KSE tried to sell the Rapids right now. The Rapids as an existing MLS team are worth less than new teams. And you see expansion teams come in, new stadiums, great environment, spending a bunch of money, marquee designated players. Tim Howard was great. Tim Howard was a goalkeeper. Who do the Rapids have that was noteworthy? And so that just led to a malaise of like, we're emotionally done with this. We're going to boycott, and you need to do better. And you need to do better for us. You need to do better for the players. You need to do better for the stadium. The club's done a fantastic job this year on the field of raising the floor of this team, of bringing in better players. I think it's, given that a lot of the frustrations that Rapids fans have is with where the club is spending wise relative to the rest of the league. They're normally bottom 5 in terms of net spend in Major League Soccer. And if you look at the transfer fees, the Rapids were almost allergic to paying transfer fees even just a few years ago. Prior to this winter, when they brought in Georgi Mihailovic, the most expensive transfer in club history was $2.7 million for Juan Ramirez almost a decade ago. Ed, how many times since 2014, 2015 have the LA Galaxy paid more than $2.7 million for a player? How many MLS teams, just last year were willing to spend that amount of money? And then still, the Rapids couldn't shell out $1 million for a single designated player who, underwhelmed relative to other teams. And so that was the frustration. Georgi Mihailovic with incentives between 3 and 4 million. I have it on good authority that it was 3.5 million just a couple weeks ago to get Rafael Navajo. The Rapids have spent $7 million on 2 DPs this calendar year, and they are unquestionably on talent wise outside of Tim Howard, who's a goalkeeper, that are the 2 best DPs in club history. You combine that with the homecrowns doing well. Chris Armas, who came in, who was not a part of last year's failure, who was not a popular hire from the coaching staff and everything. After he signs his contract and does his media obligation and everything, the club hosts a happy hour at one of the soccer bars, and Chris Armas shows up and he sits there and he's there till close, waiting, talking with fans, giving every single little kid a 10-minute conversation. I have a friend whose kid is in the academy at 12 years old. He spoke to him for 30 minutes about what he could do better and what he's going to bring for the club. And there were fans who showed up who were angry, who just like wanted to show up and say, Chris Armas, you're a terrible hire. This is a terrible club. Like, I'm frustrated. I don't know how to be a fan of this. And he sat there and he took it and he was empathetic about it. And so the vibes are completely different around the team. The club came out maybe 2 months ago with some more fan-friendly scram. The food is not great at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, and they came out with these Arctic ice cream nachos and this Italian sandwich and this brisket, and it came back from a fan survey that they did in February, March as well. That was absolutely fantastic. And the first thing that the club said is, here's the announcement, and every single season ticket holder gets $20 credited to their account to try the new scran as well. That was shockingly unheard of. There were fans who saw that on social media and like thought it was a prank, thought it was like at Colorado Rapids with a Z as opposed to with an S. It was a fake account that did that. So that's better. The stadium's still a little bit outdated. Some of the facilities could be upgraded. They're working on that to try and make that happen. Lots of fans, myself included, like to poke fun at the video board and all of the bad pixels and how it's broken. And now there's one that's just like straight burgundy, like it's almost like being ripped out and everything. Ed, you'll remember the jokes we were having last year because Colorado had 7 games that were delayed due to weather, and a lot of that was rain and hail related. And Rapids fans would like joke that like, somebody let me know when there's a lightning strike, because I would, like fans were joking about, could a lightning strike just hit the scoreboard, hit the digital board, take it out so that we don't even have to talk about it anymore. And so, like I'd like to see them replace it. It doesn't need to be now, but if they were to come out with a press release saying, hey, we're going to replace it and it's going to be in, before the start of next season and it's going to cost roughly this kind of money, that would be a show of intent. We've seen a show of intent from the front office. We've seen it from the players. We've seen it from the new head coach, Chris Armas. We've seen it in spurts from ownership. It'd be nice to see Josh and Stan at a game, sometime recently. Josh and Stan were at the Super Bowl. They've been to an Arsenal game. They showed up when the Nuggets and the Avalanche won the trophies that they did. Be nice to see them show up to a Rapids game, at least one, hopefully. It'd be nice to see them show an emotional connection as well. There's, we can talk about, if you wanted, what's going on with the land around the stadium and the plan that the club announced when they opened Dick's Sporting Goods Park in 2007, saying they were going to build like their own stadium district, and that still hasn't happened, and there's not an indication that that's going to happen anytime soon. So there's still room for improvement, but if nothing else, the people directly involved in terms of just the product on the field hear and understand the fan base, and they've acted accordingly, and winning solves a lot of problems. So too does a free brisket sandwich.
I was wondering. My first thing that I wondered, what why did it take so long for this to happen, and why did it have to get to the point where people were literally leaving the stadium for ownership to at least make the attempt to turn things around? Because everything you've told me, right? All the stuff that they've done sounds fantastic, from listening to fans, so having Chris
Mm-hmm.
Armas be there and take, like you said, take the heat from fans and
Yeah.
weather that, and to try to be more amicable and be like, hey, I understand where you guys are coming from. The food options and the fact that they're spending a little bit more, right, for players, and the performances on the field. What an amazing turnaround! But like you said, they could do a lot better, right? But why did it take why did it take so long? Why did things have to get so bad before they could finally turn things around?
Money, if we're talking about on the ownership front, because I think there were a lot of fans who were saying that, straight up, like, I'm not renewing season tickets. And so I do think that the clubs benefited. I want to give credit because I think Pablo Mastroeni did a really good job in 2016 building that team that finished second in the Western Conference, beat the LA Galaxy to go to a Western Conference final. Robin Fraser, Porrick Smith did a fantastic job. Every single player, everything went right in 2021. And so I think on some level, fairly or unfairly, the club was coasting off of the success of those 2 years and kind of intermittent success to where the fans were like hanging around long enough. I think last year was so bad on the field, and there was so much other bad stuff going on around it to where just the club was irrelevant, getting dragged and everything. Everybody was dunking on the Rapids. I don't know if you saw it, but there was a semi-viral tweet that Matt Doyle had earlier this year that I think harkened back to last year when the club, I think they won, I can't remember if it was 3-0 or 3-1. It was at San Jose Earthquakes, and Matt Doyle posts, late night MLS, it's about to hit rock bottom for the San Jose Earthquakes. They're about to lose to the Rapids, all caps. That's a fair thing to say last
Yeah.
year. That's not a fair thing. Now, I think we now have enough data to say that, the team was better than that. Matt's apologized. I have a lot of respect for Matt Doyle. I've had him on the podcast and everything. Great guy. I love interacting with him. But that speaks to it. The club, I don't know what the security is like at Dignity Health Sports Park, but I've seen increasingly at sports venues these almost like magnetic things that you walk through. And so rather than having to like take out all of your keys and everything, it'll scan and it'll pick up something if it's a problem, and it's way simpler to deal with. Do you guys have that at Dignity Health Sports Park? You know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about, Ed?
yeah.
Yeah.
They
So
put yourself
yeah,
here and just walk
yeah,
through, and if there's anything
yeah.
crazy, they'll
So
tell you.
security at DSG was notoriously really slow because some of the technology was old, for example. And then so they updated that. And so they had an announcement, I think it was for the final home game of last year, saying, hey, we've got this new stuff in place. And then somebody quote tweeted it. I don't remember which MLS account it was, but it got the most interactions of either the original tweet or any comments to the tweet or any quote tweets or quote X posts, whatever we're calling those things now, Elon. And the comment was, how I know these things are cheap and easy to get now? Because even the Rapids have them. And so everybody was dunking on the team. And
Uh,
when the fan base is dunking on them, they're walking out and everything, and then you've got the supporters cam mid game through that game that the Rapids fans walked out on protest, got moved to this section that had like a bunch of kids that were like comped from like one of the youth soccer programs because they didn't want to show an empty 117 with those banners and
yeah.
everything. So I think unfortunately it would have been nice to see the fan base react a little bit more, and show some threatening, just given how much crap that they've put up with. Or, it's almost like, the Rapids are the poverty franchise of MLS. They're the Oakland Athletics. Just be happy that you have a team, and once every 5 years, you'll beat Seattle Sounders, you'll make the playoffs, and then you'll lose to a better team. But, you're there to make up the numbers. In order for you to have Arsenal, Manchester City, Liverpool finishing, with X number of wins or a win percentage and this many points and everything, you need to have 5 other teams for them to easily beat up on. You're the Burnleys, the Crystal Palaces, the Brentfords, the Luton Towns, if you will. And so in that regard, like, the Rapids are the Washington Generals so that LAFC, LA Galaxy, Seattle, Miami can win trophies. And the fans finally said, that's not good enough. Like, let's have some kind of standard here. And the only way for us to get KSC to care about it, given where the Rapids are in the pedigree, is to make it all about money. C38, the supporters group, has season tickets through them that you can get through the supporters group rather than through the club directly. They had their biggest drop off in their history of their existence in 15 years. I think I think I heard it was 25% of season ticket holders did not renew. Normally, you'll have you'll have new people come in, you'll have some, people that drop out, they have kids, they move, something like that. But, it's never been more than 10%. Maybe it's been 12% in a bad year, or it's just an anomaly or whatever. Like, it was double that. And I think that showed. And I think finally ownership realized that, the PR hit wasn't worth it. The monetary hit wasn't worth it. We have to do something at the very least to appease the plebes. They've done some really good stuff. I'm waiting to see more. I would love a new scoreboard, please.
Yeah, I thought it was fascinating when you mentioned that some people that had been season ticket holders since '96
Mm-hmm.
were canceling their season ticket accounts. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
But I guess, like you said, people had to make a statement in some way or other. And if you hit somebody's wallet hard, if that's where it hurts the most.
Yeah.
But yeah, um, the scoreboard. I've heard you mention the scoreboard before because I think I was listening to you mention that for some reason or other, the image on the scoreboard gets worse and worse as the game progresses, or something like that. Is
Yeah.
that real?
That might be people. I'm not sure about that. I've seen it's mostly been consistent in terms of the number of pixels that are issues. That might be a lighting thing as well, because you have to know, with it being in the middle of the summer and us being at altitude, we have really, really late sunset. So then, it's day lit effectively for the start of the game, and then it's sunset as we get towards, maybe halfway through the first, 25th to 35th minute, depending on the time of the year. And then it's dark with the proper stadium lighting by the time we get into the second half. So I think it might be that. I have not noticed that when I look over and occasionally just count like how many pixels I think are having an issue. I don't see that number increase throughout the game. I am not a video board electronics expert, so maybe there's something to that of like it being used and like that usage rate causing an issue that then maybe it recharges during the days that it's off. I'm not sure. I'm not going to speculate, but yeah, the pixels are broken. It is a meme for you to post that with some of the pixels not working, and for fans to argue based on the angle at which they are, where they are in the stadium. That changes the angle at which they view the video board and how many pixels we think are broken. Some people think it's like 7 or 10. Some people think it's a dozen. Some people think it's like in the 20s.
I wouldn't be surprised if a family of raccoons lives in the scoreboard.
They can have
Yeah.
it. Yeah. We've got there's an out right above where I sit in the press box. There's where there's the connection of the support for the rapids or the mountain like roof and everything. There's normally an owl's nest. I haven't looked for it recently, but usually like once a year at some point I'll see an owl nesting up there, and I'll do my annual post that Sheffield Wednesday are scouting Jonathan Lewis.
Well, regardless of all the stuff that happened last season, like you said, there's been like a great turnaround. The Rapids have had a pretty good season. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you have to call it like it is. I remember I ran into a Rapids fan here in LA earlier in the season, and he was pretty down on the team. And I remember telling him, I think the Rapids are going to be better this year. It looks like they're making a concerted effort to try to improve things, at least with the players. And I told him, I think you would be you'd be pretty surprised with how well they're going to do this season. And so far, I look at the standings and I'm like, damn, do not sleep on the Rapids. They've been putting together a pretty good season. How does that feel? Because I remember you and I, we chat here and there, and I remember you mentioned to me recently, life is good. The Pids are doing great.
Mm-hmm.
I feel great.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I mean, it's just there's so many different players from last year. I think who've come into this season and I think improved on themselves. It's super great to see Cole Bassett getting his due on the national level. Similarly, Georgi Mihailovic getting called up to the Olympic team. And so there's just it's a fun group to root for. That's young, that's hungry, has a coach who embodies that energy as well, and it's just positive and has that keep fighting mentality that I think has certainly been restored culturally within the locker room. Scoring a lot of goals is fun. Getting scored on in a bunch, not necessarily so much. But it's also there. There's major players as well that we think about. Even if their stock was relatively down, there was a point where Georgi Mihailovic was an MVP candidate with Montreal and moved to I think it was PSV. I can't remember which Dutch club that he was at. And there was a chance that he was a shout for the national team. Sam Vines coming back from Europe. Okay, it didn't work out at Antwerp. We love Sam Vines. Having Sam Vines come back is absolutely fantastic. This would be our who's the kid for Galaxy who got sold to Barcelona?
Julian Alvarez.
Yeah, Julian Alvarez comes back to the team, in 4 or 5 years,
I'm
if it
sorry,
works out.
Julian Araujo. Sorry.
Julian Araujo.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Sorry.
yeah, and the team scores goals. So Georgi Mihailovic, fun. Omir Fernandez coming over from Red Bulls, fun. The rotting corpse of Kevin Cabral being turned into a functional player, absolutely fantastic. Rafael Navajo scoring goals and then being good enough to where the Rapids are like, we have a DP striker. This is the best DP striker we have. He's on a loan with an option to buy. Palmeiras is trying to cash in on him. KSC, just write the check, make the deal work. Show me that you care. Show me you want to win. You've proven that this player works. Get the deal done. You get the deal done, and under the valuation you had for it, you had a purchase option for 4.5 million. You managed to negotiate that down for 3.5, and that's still a big check for the Rapids to ultimately end up cashing on, spending that kind of money. And you've got the guy that you wanted at a discount, and it was still more money than you've ever spent on a striker. And he's scoring goals, and he's fun, and he's Brazilian, and he's finally learning English, and he's funny. That is admirable. It's something that makes it fun, in the same way that, the Bond girls on Twitter, were just really, super into the goalkeeper Bond. Like, it was amicable. Last year's team wasn't fun to watch, and it was really hard to root for them. And there was not a lot of, not saying that they were bad people or that they were bad towards the fans, but like there wasn't that same energy in the same way that like you can't root against some of these guys who are on this Rapids team, and the way that they've interacted with the fans, the way that the coaching staff has interacted with them, and the way that they're playing is way more fun. So Cole Bassett, Rapids fans would argue, is he a regista number 6? Is he a box-to-box number 8? Should we finally play him at the number 10? Should you put him in a wide role next to a better, more expensive number 10? And he's finally found a role that works with him. And surprise, it's in a double pivot where he gets to do a little bit of everything that he's all really good at. And he's playing next to a fellow homegrown who's an academy kid who they've been playing together with, Ali Laraz. They've known each other since they were 14, 15 years old, and they're playing together. And one of them's a ginger, and one of them might get in with the national team. And, Keegan Rosenberry, he's the captain, and he's been playing great. So it's just there's so many guys that you want to root for. There's so many guys who are profoundly human and are living their best lives and doing the best that they can do. It's lead to the team being more successful. And it's way more fun showing up to the tailgate at 5:00, having a hot dog, talking to your buddies about the game, and going in and seeing the team score a bunch of goals and win a game.
The way you're describing everything, it reminds me of something that I always mention, that winning teams usually develop an identity.
Yes.
And a lot of times, people, for example, over the last 10 years or so, right, LA Galaxy has been, adrift here and there. And they might have had some really high-profile players like Zlatan, Chicharito, the Dos Santos guys, right? But the one thing I used to tell people is like, it doesn't feel like they have a particular identity. It'd be like it's Zlatan and then the rest of the guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or Ashley Cole's there. Yeah, he's great. But, what's, as a collective, what's the identity of this club? And this season, it feels like LA Galaxy has developed an identity, right? And listening to you speak about the Rapids, it feels like they've not just developed an identity, but it feels like almost like a little tribal kind of cult little thing that the Rapids fans can call their own, and you can embrace.
It's more approachable than a cult, I should say, just to be
well,
clear.
that is true. That's true, right? But it feels like a little tribe, right? And like you're like, this is our tribe, and we love our little tribe, and that's something that I think is really important to develop an identity, because once you have an identity, it helps you win. It helps keep people in good moods even through rough times, and it helps you bounce back quicker.
Yeah. No, I think the Armis has done a great job with the culture and just like the guys playing together, playing for each other. Even though there's competition in a lot of positions, there's nobody has enemies. There's not cliques on the team in ways that maybe there were a little bit of last year. Not saying that like guys didn't like each other, but like they had the same
Yeah.
group that they'd interact with. There was the group of the Spanish speakers plus Rafael Navajo because he speaks enough Spanish as a Brazilian. There was the group of the British expats, Jack Price, Danny Wilson, Sam Nicholson. There were kind of the older MLS American veterans, and then there were kind of the homegrowns and the other young guys as well. And so, like, not saying that like guys don't have friendships or their own power ranking, like MySpace, if you will, of like guys who they normally go to and everything. But like, I have no doubt Kamani Stewart Baines could walk into the locker room and the first guy he sees, on a morning for training could be any other guy, and he's happy to see him, and they're going to shake hands and they're going to chat there for a little bit. That's there in ways that maybe it eroded a little bit in the final year and a half under Robin Fraser. In terms of on the field, Ed, I think that Armas has done a good job of matching, having a young, hungry team that wants to get after it and put a lot of effort into it, into how they want to play. This is not Colorado Red Bulls, just to be clear. And he's done, I think, a really good job of matching when do we press and how do we press and what does that look like, with also trying to be a possession-based team. Now, it's a little bit not Jekyll and Hyde, but it's two sides. It's different sides of the same coin in terms of when they're at home versus on the road. At home, they definitely want to be more ball dominant. They want to put the opponent, under the cosh, if you will, real siege mentality, and just give them absolutely no breaks, no chance to slow the game down on, and really get after them and attack them. They're a little bit more pragmatic on the road. They want to go after the opponent, but they'll do it in a different way. They'll definitely do it from a deferential standpoint. You can have the ball. We're going to press you. Connor Ronan, Oliver Larraz, Cole Bassett are going to do everything that they can tomorrow to make Ricky Puig's life miserable on the ball. And he's going to have no space, and they're going to try and tackle him. And if one of them gets a yellow card, fine. They'll deal with that later. And they're going to do everything they can to surround him, not let him get the ball to Gabriel Peck, to Paintsil, to Diego Fagundes. They're going to turn him over, and then they're going to run, and they're going to be direct. Omer Fernandez, Rafael Navajo, Sam Vines, they're going to be very, very direct. And so that matches in perfectly, I think, with culturally and also like age profile, energy, fitness wise that the team's at as well. It's a little bit of chaos ball. It was certainly that against the New York Red Bulls at times. It was definitely that against St. Louis, but it's super fun to watch. You can tell that the system fits the team. You can tell that it functions on a system, not a Zlatan and 10 guys, if you will. And you can tell that they're having fun out there and they're playing for each other. And that's just another way in which the vibes are so much better than last year.
Yeah, sounds like you're having a lot more fun too, which is always a good thing, right?
Yes, winning and scoring goals is way better than losing and scoring no goals.
Yeah, Cobra Commander is just sitting back in his little lair. He's not even messing around with the weather dominator right now.
Yeah.
See, I'm telling you, man, he was upset. He was protesting, right?
Yes.
So you mentioned an old pal of us over here, and Kevin Cabral. So this is where we have the Kevin Cabral report. I want to give credit to the Rapids because they have not given up on him, right? I mean, granted, it's not easy to just like sign off on a DP contract, but my goodness, the Rapids still have Kevin Cabral there.
Yep.
And I've been tracking him throughout the season, and it seems every now and then he'll do something, right? Like really surprising or something remarkable. What's going on with Kevin Cabral right now?
Cabral has become a really good player who I think understands that even when the goals and the assists are not there, there's lots of other ways in which he can help the team become successful. And I had been complaining for years for Jonathan Lewis to develop a better defensive work rate so that even when things weren't firing offensively, at the very least, he was helping his fullback and he was making it really hard for the wide players that he was matched up against. Kind of happened. It was a little bit inconsistent. Kevin Cabral's defensive work rate, if this was Football Manager or if this was FIFA, would be high. He and Sam Vines are absolutely miserable to try and go in transition with overlapping fullbacks or an overlapping winger against him. He's done a very, very good job in transition of being that outlet guy. So I mentioned earlier where the midfielders are going to try and jump Ricky tomorrow and turn the ball over. As soon as that happens, Kevin Cabral is darting into the open space, and he's doing everything he can to be a really easy outlet for the Rapids to transition from a defensive posture into a attacking transition posture. He's also doing that by staying on side. I remember that was an issue with him with LA Galaxy. That was an issue for him last year as well. And so the St. Louis game was, I think, a really good coming together moment where he was up top with Cole Bassett, who's in the number 10 role. Kevin Cabral would have been at the left wing position in a 4-2-3-1, or right wing, excuse me, in a 4-2-3-1. And finally, we saw him not only do all of that stuff defensively and off the ball or in transition, but also him be on the end play. So I think his stats are a little bit misleading, where he was playing he was started to play well in April. It was much better in May. It was really good in June. It's been good since then. But for the most part, in terms of what he was contributing, like from an XG chain, if you will, it was him being the outlet for then the pass before the pass before the pass. So, if MLS had hockey assists like the NHL and the
Yeah.
third to the last pass got an assist as well, then Kevin Cabral's numbers, I think, would better reflect what he's doing from a build-up play. So all of that's been really, really good. That's been great at times. We just haven't seen the final product from a, XG, what opportunities does he get and does he shoot it right at the goalkeeper? And so it finally came together in St. Louis, where he was combining really well with Bassett. He was providing that last pass. So he and Bassett both had a goal and an assist, and they assisted each other's goals. And then with that, Cole set a record for goals in a season. Cabral set a record for assists in an MLS season, and both set a personal record for goal contributions in a season. And we've still got 10 games left as well. So I think Kevin Cabral is living his best life. I think he's definitely way more confident. Chris Armas met with him. He's the first player who he called into his office after he got a job, and he talked about confidence and where that comes from and what he can do to help the team even when he's not scoring. Kevin's become very narrowly singular focused on what he can do to help the team. And that has then led to, I think, opportunities to where if he's focused on other stuff, then the goals come a little bit more naturally, or he's just not so focused and worried about that. That doesn't maybe erode his confidence in ways that it did for LA Galaxy. And I can't not root for him at this point. And the fact that the Galaxy are paying him more than the Rapids are only makes it better.
Well, since you said it, LA Galaxy several times, let's transition over into our match because as much as we hope Kevin Cabral does well with the Rapids, we hope he doesn't do so well against us tomorrow night. But looking into the history of this matchup, all time regular season, uh, LA Galaxy versus Colorado Rapids, it's pretty close. Out of 83 matches, Galaxy has won 38. Colorado has won 32, with only 13 draws between both of them. If you look at the all-time results, at no time is one team like really dominant over the other. They just go back and forth, which is, um, I mean, it has to be said, this is probably one of the better rivalries in MLS because no one team is too dominant over the other. It's what you want in a rivalry. And obviously, these are two legacy teams, so they have a lot of history going back. Uh, Earlier, I was mentioning to you about the referee that we're gonna have for this game over the weekend. I'll mention him right now because this guy is pretty new. He's been around since 2020. Um, well, interesting year for him to begin, right? His name is Izmir Pekmik. Izmir Pekmik has refereed a total of 48 regular season MLS matches involving LA Galaxy only 3 times for 2 wins, 0 draws, and 1 loss. He has never refereed a Galaxy home game. He has refereed 3 Rapids matches for 2 wins, 1 draw, no losses. He has never refereed a Rapids road match. So something's going to happen tomorrow. Something funny is going to happen. And next up, let's talk about the player availability reports. What do you have out there in the Rapids? Because I know we were talking about it. And so, who's out for tomorrow?
Oh, yeah, there's a couple long-term injuries that we kind of already knew about. Daniel Chacon isn't listed as being injured. He tore his ACL on loan in Costa Rica sometime last year. He's been back in training. I would not expect him to start at center back. Andreas Maxu's great. Lalsa Bubakar's good. Moise Pambito's back from Canada. I assume that he's not getting sold in the next 12 hours to Lyon. At least let's hope it's not. Calvin Harris is out with a groin injury. He was dealing with that going into the game on Saturday, and then he re-aggravated that in warmups and was unable to participate in that game. And so I think they're going to be precautionary. Omir Fernandez did suffer an injury against his former team, New York Red Bulls, but he's not listed on the availability report. So I think it's him on the right. And we'll see who subs in. Jonathan Lewis and Kamani Stewart-Baines are certainly there. I have a feeling Chris Armas knows that this game still kind of means something to Kevin Cabral, so I don't think Kevin's not getting subbed out unless it's absolutely needed from a tactical standpoint. And let me see who else there was. Oh, and then backup goalkeeper Adam Beaudry, homegrown, is out as well. He's with the US U20s. Ed, that wasn't a surprise. It was going to be Zach Steffen starting anyways. And then Georgi Mihailovic is with the Olympic team. So normally it was, Righted in Sharpie, Georgie at the 10, Cole Bassett at the 8, Oliver Laraz at the 6. I imagine it will once again be Cole Bassett at the 10, and then we'll have Connor Ronan and Oliver Laraz in the double pivot together, being a little bit more defensive. So it'll be like a 6 and a 6-8, if you will, and then a 10, as opposed to these are terms that the Rapids like to use internally that I realize to a Galaxy audience doesn't necessarily make sense. They refer to it as a 6-8, and then a 6-10. Excuse me. There's a traditional number 6, and then there's a 8-6, so a slightly defensive box-to-box midfielder, and then an 8-10, a slightly attacking box-to-box midfielder. It'll be a little bit more segmented with Cole at the 10 and Ollie at the 8 tomorrow. And everything else, I think, will be chalk based on what we saw last year. So Vines, Maxu, probably Lawless Abubakar, but Moise is back. He did play 120 minutes on Saturday for Canada. Keegan Rosenberry at right back, Zach Steffen in goal, Kevin on the left, and Rafael Navajo up top.
Yeah, I was listening to you say 6'8", 6'10". I was like, man, you guys got some really tall guys there I haven't heard about.
Yeah.
Jesus, these guys must be tree trunks.
Yeah, LeBron James at number 10.
You mentioned Zach Steffen, and I want to bring him up because it was something I heard you guys discussing on Holding the High Line earlier this year. There's been some issues with Zach Steffen, right? As far as compared to what you had before with Carl Yarbrough, right?
I mean, Yarbrough was fine. The key thing is that he didn't cost a whole lot to get, and he didn't cost a whole lot to keep. The issue with Zach Steffen, that Rapids fans had kind of caught on anecdotally, and then the numbers have backed it up, and it's made its way into my contact, Matt Doyle, brought it up. And when Doyle's finally acknowledging something that Rapids fans have been tweeting at him for 3 months, it's signal, not smoke. There's a stat that FBref and Opta track, which is post shot XG. So basically, once you account for the shot where it's going, then what is the expected goals? Because obviously a high quality chance that somebody boots into row 20, that's expected goals based on where the shot was taken, but then that maybe helps out because the goalkeeper doesn't have to make a save. So crudely, it's tracking what are you doing from a save percentage standpoint based on what you should save and what an average goalkeeper or an above average goalkeeper would do. So Andre Blake, really good at this. Matt Turner, off the charts. Roman Berkey in St. Louis, really, really good. Maybe Steve Clark, not so much. And so I haven't checked this stat in a couple of weeks because the Rapids have been doing better. They've gotten a clean sheet. They've gotten a lot of games where they've only given up one goal that wasn't Zach Steffen's fault and was a high quality chance. But so prior to that, Zach Steffen had cumulatively the worst, so the lowest post-shot XG. So if you would put in an average MLS goalkeeper, I don't remember when this was, it would have been like 2 months ago, would have conceded like 7 or 8 fewer goals than Steffen had conceded at that point. And so the stat's been around for FBref and Opta, or excuse me, American Soccer Analysis, for about 10 years now. And at that point, Zach Steffen had the lowest of any goalkeeper they had tracked. So crudely, Zach Steffen was having, at one point this season, the worst shot-stopping season of any MLS starter in almost a decade. Ed, who was the Italian goalkeeper who was absolute crap after the Costa Rican guy went back to Costa Rica?
You got God, that was in 2012. My goodness. Let me look it up real quick because funny guy.
So in any case, Steffen had been struggling with that. He had mentioned that he kind of gets in his own head and overthinks things in moments where he kind of just needs to be reactive. I think he's done a better job of simplifying things and just, similar to Kevin Cabral, focus on what you can control. Everything else is noise. F that noise, kind of a thing. And I will say that a lot of the improvement as well this recently has been the team in front of him doing a better job defensively in terms of their rest defense. And so that's been leading to him having less stuff to do. Andreas Maxu's been fantastic in his second year. I've mentioned earlier, Keegan Rosenberry, captain, done a really good job. I don't think he deserved an all-star appearance, but he's going to be on the all-star team. And Moise Bombito has been fantastic with the Rapids prior to getting called up for Canada. And Lawless Abubakar, who had to wait his turn, has done a really good job the last couple weeks in terms of keeping things simple. So they've done a better job of being compact and being harder to beat. And so I think that's led to the Rapids having more success defensively that has maybe masked or just made it easier for Zach Steffen and taken the load off of him. I'd like to see him make some better shots, but if I am not going to complain about the Rapids defense being Zach Steffen not making spectacular saves when the defense in front of him is preventing those high quality opportunities, and to where you limit a New York Red Bulls to a few shots outside the zone and they get one really good chance. That's the defensive breakdown and they score a goal and you manage to get back into the game. That is, again, that's much improved from where the team was earlier this season. And again, it's all way better than last year.
You're talking about our good pal, Carlo Cudicini.
Carlo Cudicini. Oh my God, he was a head case.
Man, the last time I ever saw anything of him was a picture of him that somebody snapped of him getting into those player whirlpools, and he just has like this really like shocked, angry face, like what the hell are you doing kind of look. And that's the last we saw of him. He just vanished into that galaxy obscurity, like back of your mind. He's almost like in Bing Bong territory at this point right now. So Bing Bong, Bing Bong. I said he was not your friend you want to play with, right?
Yeah. 2013 was his last year, according to his Wikipedia page, and that was with the
Then he
Galaxy.
just disappeared into obscurity until you brought him back. Thanks.
Yeah, I apologize to the Galaxy fans for the trigger warding of 2013 and Carlo Cudicini.
Well, for the LA Galaxy over here, there's only three real players that are not going to be featuring in this match. Julian Aude, who's still dealing with a groin issue, but that's perfectly fine. Johnny Nelson, who we got from St. Louis City, has been doing a fantastic job of filling in for Julian Aude. One of the things that we noted about Johnny Nelson since he joined LA Galaxy, every time he comes in, he's just those guys that he clocks in, he does work. It's no frills. He just does a fantastic job. And I've been saying all along, the moment that he starts to develop a working relationship with one of his wingers, whether it be Pinto, who he's usually paired with, or if they invert it and then you have Peck on that side, once he starts learning how to work well with them, Johnny Nelson is going to be doing a lot more on the offensive side. But for now, he's just a guy he's just does his job, and you never hear anybody complain about him. A lot of Galaxy fans have started to warm up to him, so kudos to him. Gaston Brugman, he's still dealing with a knee issue. He might be done for the rest of the season. We're not quite sure. But he was down in Uruguay getting his green card. He just announced that he got it. So that frees up an international spot, which a lot of people are saying, is this it? Is Marco Royce finally coming down? This might be it. And then, of course, the biggest thing, though, the biggest issue for Egg Galaxy right now is Dejan Jovalic. He is out with a hamstring injury. My goodness. As much as we like to talk about how exciting this LA Galaxy team is with Peck and Paintsil and Ricky Puig, they need an actual striker, and Miguel Berry is not it. I'm really sorry. He's not it. And having Dejan Jovalic get injured really shows how paper thin LA Galaxy is up top. So I don't know exactly how they're going to handle things tomorrow. Whether they're going to do it by committee, whether they're going to line up Paintsil up top again, or whether they're going to start Miguel Berry and then sub him out at some point. But LA Galaxy is really going to be lacking on the offensive end unless they can figure out a way to get Paintsil and Peck involved more. Um, Peck usually lines up on the right side, and then Paintsil will be on the left. But one of the things that we notice is that Vanny will invert them, and when he does, it's to the Galaxy's credit. Here's something I'm going to mention to you because it's been a hot button topic over here, where when LA Galaxy really caught fire in the middle of the season, and this is after they lost to Chicago. They won 4 matches in a row. So at that point, they had won 5 of the last 6 matches. And when they won those 4 matches is when Ricky Puig was out. And LA Galaxy was forced to work, figure out a way to make that offense work without him. And credit to them, they did. And I've talked about it many times on our show. They looked more dynamic. Peck was playing like he was unshackled. He was running free. Pinto was doing all these great things. And Diego Fagundes was more involved in the offense. And their Galaxy was committing less turnovers, especially in the defensive third, because a lot of times Ricky Puig would come all the way back to try to carry the ball up the field, and a lot of times he would get dispossessed or he would turn the ball over. But Galaxy was playing really good. They started winning a lot of games. They beat some really good teams. Ricky Puig comes back, and ever since he comes back, Galaxy has only won one game. So the question is having Puig in there more of a detriment? I mean, it's really hard to say that about somebody who's so talented like a Ricky Puig, who can carry the ball, who has that ability to see things that most average players don't, because a lot of times they're thinking two or three steps ahead. But one of the things that works to his detriment is that he likes to carry the ball a lot instead of moving it around. And a lot of times he'll hold on to the ball so long that by the time Peck is trying to make a run, it's already too late. And so he doesn't get the space that he needs to try and go work around the corners. Although Gabriel Peck is doing fantastic. But one of the other issues that it's plaguing LA Galaxy is the fact that Joseph Paintsil's performances have been starting to dip. We noticed that for the last month or so, especially in the game against LAFC, that he does not have that same pep in his step. Doesn't have that same explosiveness that we had seen earlier in the season. But then we started to point out that the fact that between him playing in Belgium for Genk and then going to AFCON with Ghana, he has been playing nonstop for like 12 months. Please give the guy a break. So whether it's fatigue or whether he's still dealing with injury issues because he was injured earlier in the season, it's not quite clear. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people in LA Galaxy are looking forward to the Leagues Cup break because you never know. Maybe somehow Galaxy will stumble into like the knockout rounds of that tournament. But it'll be an opportunity for Galaxy to rotate some players and maybe get some people like Joseph Pinto a break during that time. But for now, I think it would be very important for LA Galaxy not to look forward at Leagues Cup at that break or at Saturday's match. You have a really strong team in front of you, a team that's hungry, a team that wants to say, "Hey, everybody talks about RSL, everybody talks about Galaxy, everybody talks about LAFC. We're right here. We're knocking on the door, and we want to come in there and like be considered one of the contenders for the West." I think Galaxy should not take the Rapids lightly, especially because we know that a certain Kevin Cabral is going to want to say hi to the Galaxy fans in the end zone after scoring. So this is where we get into the fun part, Matt. Predictions. Since you're our guest and you guys are visiting us, I'll let you have first crack.
I'm gonna stick with what I said on HCHL and what I told Acuna, the guys, last night. I think this will be a 1-0 Galaxy win. I think both teams are looking for an improved defensive performance. You talked about the concerns that you have about the Galaxy attack, to where it might not be free flowing or at least fully clicking outside of maybe what Ricky Puig is doing individually or maybe a Gabriel Peck as well. I do think not having Georgi Mihailovic is going to hurt. I think not having the depth and the options that they have on wing a little bit as well is going to hurt the Rapids. I also am wondering how much squad rotation we'll see from Chris Armas, given that this is the one road game in the middle of a 3-game week, and you have to top that off with, everything for the context from a Rapids perspective tomorrow is also based on the fact that the Rapids fly back, and 2 days later they're hosting the third leg of the Rocky Mountain Cup. And so, Ed, I have to imagine the game before that game at the Rose Bowl on 4th of July, you would have taken a red card and a 3-0 loss if it meant the Galaxy were to would have beaten LAFC in that game. So certainly, I think most people in Rapids land are absolutely willing to punt on this if it means that the Rapids can
Wow.
finally win the Rocky Mountain Cup as well. So I think we'll see some squad rotation from the Rapids, maybe a little bit of lack of focus, a little bit more pragmatic on the road, and just not quite having that bite offensively. I think both teams will have chances, but maybe the finishing won't necessarily be there, and it'll be a 1-0 win for the Galaxy.
Yeah, it's like we said earlier, the referee in this game has never hosted both teams in this particular situation, whether it's home or on the road. So that'll be interesting to see how he does with both teams in this game. Looking at Galaxy, yeah, I don't see a lot of Galaxy scoring a lot of goals in this game. Um, I I guess I have to agree with you. Maybe a 1-0 win, but if things don't work out for the LA Galaxy, if the Rapids are able to pounce on them right away and make things difficult for them, I would not be shocked if this game ended in a 1-1 draw.
Mm-hmm.
And for LA Galaxy fans, it might be a little disappointing because tomorrow night, LA Galaxy is going to be hosting 90s night. So bring out the fanny packs, bring out your Jinko jeans or your Timberlands. Um, hey, I'm gonna bust out the Wu Tang shirt, head out there,
Mm.
and celebrate 90s night. LA Galaxy is supposed to be wearing those brand new retrograde kits. I would love to see the Rapids wearing those kits that you're wearing right now. But unfortunately, the Rapids were not invited to this particular party at this particular time. But maybe next year they will, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree with you. 1-0 Galaxy. If things go sideways, like I said, 1-1 draw. But yeah, and then looking forward to the next match for us. It'll be Portland Timbers, who have had a very rocky season. But hey, it's an opportunity for you guys over the weekend to not only take the Rocky Mountain Cup, right, but also give those guys a good NHL welcome, right? Because
That's
Utah is
true.
getting used to that.
Yes. I suppose we have to, yeah, finally the Phoenix Coyotes finally have a natural geographic rival that matches them. Given, I think I mentioned this earlier, but you've got CU Buffs in Utah, although I can't remember what's happening with the conference realignment there. I'm an ACC guy personally. And then, you've got Jazz and Nuggets, I think a little bit, but yeah, no, that'll be a nice thing to have against a Utah hockey club, or they hadn't come up with a name. I remember seeing that. We're not
Yeah.
going with the Storm and Mormons or something a little bit more inappropriate that I won't say here. But yeah, no, I think it's the and I'm emotionally over all of the Wednesday games and just like the 3-game weeks. I
Yeah.
think it leads to stuff being a little bit too congested. Like there's no time for build up for a match day for me, or like for you to like truly savor something or like process it afterwards. And certainly, yeah, like the fact that I don't get to start getting hyped about the 3rd game in a rivalry game, probably the Rapids' biggest home game of the season outside of 4th of July, or a home playoff game as well, because they have a game 2 days prior to that. And so that's, all of this for the fixture congestion and so many games and just burnout from, having to focus on that on a Wednesday and on a Saturday and everything. All of that for Leagues Cup, and then what, maybe 2 weekends off in August. For me personally, it's
Yeah.
not worth it. Not when we're giving up the Open Cup as well. I'm an Open Cup truther.
Yeah, and then there's the pie in the face that we just heard today that Inter Miami's Leo Messi is going to be out indefinitely. Uh, in case you missed it, he twisted his ankle really bad and then took a tackle in the same play. His ankle swelled up really, really ugly. Um, I had a similar injury many years ago, and it took me about a year to recover. And this, I mean, I don't have access to the best care you can get, right? Like a Leo Messi would.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that, yeah, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my God, this guy is not going to come back anytime soon. He initially I said he's out 4 to 6 weeks, but then when I heard it was ligament damage, I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be a while. And especially if you want to take care of your cash cow, you got to just wait until he recovers. So
I still think they're
whatever
good enough to
Emma,
make the playoffs. I think the Shield's gone, but yeah, what was the tweet that I saw? social media was on one this weekend, Ed, with everything that happened in life and in
Oh
soccer. But
goodness, yeah.
somebody was like somebody check on Don Garber. Like, is he like in the fetal position on the ground, like
Yeah.
hyperventilating and everything? Just because like, I love having Messi in the league. I loved getting to go see a game there and getting to see him in person and see the Rapids get a 2-2 draw coming from behind and having him play in the second half. But at the same time, the fact that Messi, consumes all the oxygen in the air, Don Garber complaining about how, members of the media are lazy because they're only covering Messi and everything, like he's what gets clicks. The fact that Messi shows up and it's Messi League Soccer shows you that he was able to get a bump that the league wasn't able to on its own. And in that regard, the league still has room to grow to where, Cristiano Ronaldo moves from Real Madrid to Juventus, and it's not like we see a huge uptick in what Juve are as a club or what Serie A is domestically or internationally. Don't get me wrong, Ronaldo helped them. He was good for business. Certainly, he was good for business for other teams as well. But like, he didn't completely change where that league was, and so the fact
Yeah.
that Messi's able to do that shows how big Messi is, but also how much room there is to grow for the league, and how so much of what the league is still kind of propped up on some of these big single stars. That the Rapids have to have. How are the Rapids going to sell out a game this year? Free fireworks. Season ticket holders getting like $20 ticket buddy tickets as well, or Lionel Messi showing up. And so the fact that the Rapids on their own can't get 18,061 people on the merits and the interest of the club as well shows that Messi is a draw that the Rapids on their own aren't. So I hope he's okay. I hope for the sake of him and for the sake of soccer, it's better, certainly. But yeah, another meme that I really liked was the Messi saying like I finally won a second Copa America, albeit it took Enzo to do it for me. But at what cost? Inter
Yeah.
Miami season. So yeah.
No, you're absolutely correct. But at least I can look at MLS highlights, and I see games at Dick's, and I see fans in the crowd, and I
Yeah.
see everybody cheering, and everybody. It looks like it's a more of a party atmosphere. And like I said, I'm an MLS lifer, and I feel like this sense of investment in all the clubs, and I will defend this league to the death. And so whenever I see something like that happen, it really warms my heart, and I'm glad to see that at least at this point, it seems like the Rapids are headed in the right direction with everything, and I really hope things keep getting better and you guys get a brand new scoreboard soon.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what, Matt? Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, I really hope that tomorrow, well, it's Tuesday night, in case anybody's wondering. I really hope that tomorrow, Wednesday, LA Galaxy and Colorado Rapids give us a very entertaining match. Even if the score has 1-0, some of the best games you'll ever see are scoreless draws, right? But yeah, we're gonna see somebody score in this game, hopefully. And let's not forget, this is a battle between first and fourth place, right? And
Mhm.
the Rapids could creep up into that conversation with a win. Galaxy has a rare opportunity to try and maybe get some points on the because I think LAFC is playing RSL. I think so. There's an opportunity for the Galaxy to make some ground. But more than anything, I just hope that tomorrow everybody has a good time. It's 90s night. The new kids are out. Go get your kid. Go get your gazelles. Whatever. Have a good time. Get home safe, and then gotta turn things around real fast for the Timbers. And like it's true what you said, all these Wednesday games are driving me nuts because I really savor these conversations that we have with people like you. But then it feels like we turn around real quickly and we got to talk about some other game, and we don't really get a chance to enjoy that match because we got to move on, right? Got to feed the
Mhm.
monster. But hey, Matt, thanks again so much. We look forward to having you back on the show sooner than later. And for uh, more than anything, thank you so much. I mean, it's tired. I mean, I'm really tired. It's 11 p.m. I've been up since 5 a.m. I have a 4-year-old. We had family over today, and I'm just really worried. But tell everybody where they can find you on socials, please.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter X at LWS Matt Pollard. You can check out all of my content at Burgundy Wave. We're at Burgundy Wave on all the socials. And the newest episode of Holding the High Line did just drop a few hours before we started recording this. So whatever podcatcher you're listening to, News Across the Galaxy, search Holding the High Line. You'll find us. And me and Rabbi we were on one tonight.
Yes, and please, if you really love MLS, add Matt. Please listen to his content. Matt's one of the really good people in this league that has great content. I follow him. I know some of the guys in NAG do as well. And I always tell people, it's people like you, Matt, that helps curate the history of this league. And years from now, people are going to look back at the stuff, the content that you put out, and they're going to be like, I'm really glad that somebody that cares this much about the Rapids, about MLS, is doing this because it gives us a sense of history. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
like what MLB did with the baseball series with Ken Burns. You're the Ken Burns of the Rapids there, Matt.
I received that compliment, sir.
So, everyone, thank you so much. My name is Edgar. You guys can find me on Twitter as Edgar Nags or NA_GS. Big thanks to Chewy for producing. Chewy, where can anybody find you on social media? Chewy. He fell asleep. Well, you can find him on Chavez Chavez JA. Chewy, you there? Guess not.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, there he is.
No, yeah, you guys can find me as Chavez JA, Chavez Ha on all my socials. It's pretty easy, pretty simple.
There we go. Thank you so much, Chewy. And so for everybody here at News Across the Galaxy, thank you so much. Have a good night. Hey, as always, keep on nagging. And as far as I'm concerned, baby, Wu-Tang for life. Let's go.